and breeding so interesting that it can't go without saying, when two people come together, they're looking to get intricate and make an offspring. They're not looking to get the same thing, or else they wouldn't be finding someone different in the first place. A lot of people say stuff about me, and I don't know if it's true, but one thing that I do know is that a physician told me I have problems breathing, and sometimes that's why my face will get red, because I breathe really shallow, and that's because I have heart murmurs. My heart murmurs as well make the blood go slower, and I don't breathe that good. Excuse me, I have to spit, but I won't on camera to save the grace. The blood oxygen going through my blood is then lowered because I take shallow breaths. And when you can get really intricate, a receiver can make something different than it already was originally. This is the art of not metaphysics, but transformations. And that's what science I'm fluent in. Just as like a TV and a smartphone will never sync up properly because they're run off different. I know this is gonna come across the wrong way, and so I'm just gonna say, when you're young, that you'll make wrong decisions because you're going to not know any better, and so you're not gonna be ready for like the real world. But then the real world is like out of control, and then because it's not ran properly. So then the reason why I'm an open target is because it always looks like I'm out of control, because I am tall and thin, and so that makes me an open target. The people is like Mandela. Who else we've got? You've got yourself Mother Teresa. You go ahead and have yourself Gandhi, and these people, everyone they talked to, they were changing the lives, and that changed that person's life for the rest of their life. And everyone they saw, that's what happened. And that's the aspect where you can go in the vector of saying we need, from person to person, everyone can get better. But then it's when Gandhi and Mandela died, when Mother Teresa passed away, no one remembers what they did, and the people who were changed by them passed away too. So as of currently now, everything is like in a lockdown, and the leaders are responding to crisis is wrong. So there's not one single individual good enough. Not even Mother Teresa could fix this. Not even Gandhi could fix this whole lockdown thing. Not even Mandela, nor Dr. Martin Luther King, which, wow, is that edgy to even say his name during a lockdown. None of those people would be able to, Rome wasn't built in a day. No, they couldn't fix this lockdown if it took their whole life. And if they all were teamed together in a super A-team of people to people, we the people, they couldn't find a slogan. It wouldn't work that way. So why breeding is so important is it allows to diversify, and that's how you secure your staple of your lineage. So your lineage, it's a two-way street where you're trying to hold the anchor of the legacy of your family by expanding it. And when you look at that, it sounds proper, but when you think about it in more depth, you're watering down the genes when you're finding different spouses. And this is what the royal family in England, like, they'll only marry royal people. But the King Harry, or Prince Harry, married a handbag model from America. So that's where they allow them to marry people who aren't of the royal family, because if you only marry people in your family, then you'll get offspring that have Down syndrome and other medical issues. So you got to know how to understand both in order for it to not backlash. There are certain animals that have cells that are only single structured or close to being just a few cells that are what makes up their makeup. And these are animals that are the ones that are constantly being found as new species. For these reasons, they look incredibly alien, as if they're not even from this planet. These creatures, which are being now categorized in zoology and shown as new species that are found, are first correlated to the closest thing that resembles them. Whether it be a jellyfish, you would say this animal is representative of the jellyfish because it has really long tentacles coming down off of it, and it's undersea. Even though its head is the size of a quarter and it only has a few cells, and it looks really scary. The other place where animals are found of new species is deep inside of the forest, and these are usually little small insects, once again, that only have a few cells. And you see that a lot of these animals are being found and then they're documented and just made closest connections of things that resemble closely to them. When it comes to outer space, so you've got yourself covering the land and then the deep in the water, but up above in the airwaves, you start going further up there, and then you're considering outer space, because part of the atmosphere is actually pixelating out into the outer space, and it dissolves going up. And so when you're talking about the air, you can talk about the outer layers of outer space, and it's still within the same depiction of the atmosphere. But more so when you're talking about outer space, that's only inclusive of the atmosphere. It's not inclusive of the water or the forest, because those are both within the interior of the land, and the land is within the atmosphere. So outer space, it's a stretch to say they have things to do with the forest or the water, despite that the new species look very much alien-like, that they didn't come from this planet where they would be out of this world. Your first guess would be, well, the only guess, outer space. However, them not being in the air, ergo the atmosphere, leaves you to question that they had to get through a hurdle and an obstacle if they were alien, or if they had been here the whole time, that those are the only two options they had. But since they look so alien-like, you want to think that they actually did come from outer space, where they would have had to maneuver past the atmosphere in order to land on the land, inclusive of the ocean, within the ocean. So your health where you can't always be straight as an arrow. Sometimes your hair will be flat when you straighten it, and then it'll start frizzing and puffing out in the split ends. I had problems reading when I was a kid because they brought me out of class during the time where they were teaching everyone how to read. And this was a problem because when I came back, everyone had already learned the steps of reading.